There we go.
There we are.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to another episode of Overthink This podcast. My name is Macy.
And my name is Kyle, Kyle.
We're joined by our
Cat.
co-host, Tango.
He's not facing the camera for those of you watching, but he's going to show you a little light. Ooh. Okay, anyways. We got a couple stories. I think, Macy, you're taking it this round.
I am.
All right. I think we should dive right in.
Okay, I'm going to tell you
I almost
about
broke my glasses.
the best story ever, your favorite ever.
Oh.
The story of Roanoke.
Oh. Yeah.
That was a lackluster reaction.
Inside, I'm jumping for joy.
Did you want to do this one and I stole it from you?
I was thinking about it when you mentioned it that one time. I was like, that'd be good.
When did I mention it?
A few weeks ago.
Okay. All right. So, one thing that I didn't know about the Roanoke colony is that the missing. If you don't know what the Roanoke colony is, it's the missing colony of settlers that came to America and disappeared.
They, like, one of the first too?
They were one of the first,
early,
but something that I didn't know was that the Roanoke colony that disappeared was actually the second attempt at settling on Roanoke. There was a colony before them who didn't disappear.
Oh, I thought they were the first in that whole region.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know that either. And they actually were like the second colony in that region. There was one before them.
Yeah, you just said
no, there was like in a different spot on Roanoke. Yeah,
like you literally just.
So they're actually the third.
Got it. Okay, I thought you were just repeating.
Okay,
yourself
so
like she lost it.
There was 2 attempts to settle on Roanoke Island, which is present day Dare County, North Carolina. The first attempt was in 1585. Roanoke became the second North American English colony by royal prerogative Queen Elizabeth I. And the first Roanoke colony was established by Governor Ralph Lane. So to know a little bit about what happened to the disappearing colony, I'm going to tell you about the first colony and why it didn't work out.
Okay.
So the first colony was originally going to be a military expedition to explore the land and the resources there, because this is the first time, well, technically the second time. It's the idea of moving to North America is like very new, and so they have to send a crew to go
scout it out,
survey. Approximately 600 men were going to go over, with 300 men staying behind, and then more waves of people were to be sent over.
Okay.
There's a fleet of 7 ships: the Tiger, Roebuck, Red Lion, Elizabeth, Dorothy, and 2 pinnaces, which are small sailboats.
You mean penises?
Hey!
I don't even... All right, sorry.
Okay, so they depart from Plymouth, England on April 9th, 1585. So we did the dancing plague.
We're close. We're close.
Yeah.
So these people are showing up because they're like,
we're
fuck
like
this
60
place. Yeah.
years or 70. I can't do the math.
But it's like a generation away. So
yes.
Less than a generation away.
Yes.
All right.
So they leave, and then the commander of the fleet is in the Tiger. Out of all the 8 boats, he's like in the one called the Tiger, and a severe storm off the coast of Portugal separates the Tiger from the rest of the fleet. So like right off the bat, they're kind of like breaking up. But they have like a meeting point in the Caribbean where everybody's like sailing to, given that they know that they're not going to, get there at the same time.
Got it.
So the Tiger ends up by itself, but proceeds alone and ends up making it first to the meeting point in the Caribbean before any other ship on May 11th. And while the crew is waiting, they start practicing building forts, and they try to build another boat since the storm sunk one of their pinnaces.
Wait, so are you saying they had never built a fort before, and then they...
No, I think that...
They got to, like, the first destination, like, we should give this a shot.
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh,
I don't know if
wow.
they've built a fort or not, but they're, like, practicing with the land, because now they're, like, over in that region. They're in the Caribbean, but, like...
Are they at the Cook Islands?
Close. I didn't really
Captain James
look
Cook?
where they went.
All right.
So they're practicing building a fort, and they build another boat. The Elizabeth arrives on May 19th, so just only about a week after, but the other ships never arrived due to difficulties. Eventually the Roebuck, Red Lion, and Dorothy continue on to the Outer Banks and make it there mid-June. So they just like didn't even go to the meeting point because they were so late. They just went to where they were going to colonize, which is where Roanoke is, on the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Greenville tries to contact local Spanish authorities because Spain's actually over in North America before the English. He's trying to receive fresh provisions from them, but the Spanish never deliver supplies, and he suspects that they're going to attack soon, so they abandon the fort. So this is the people of the Tiger and the Elizabeth who are on that little meeting point island in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
And there's Spanish there, and so they're trying to like get some supplies from them because they have like a lot of people with them, and they're just running out of supplies. But relationships with the Spanish are rocky because they're both kind of trying to colonize the same area.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
They think that the Spanish is going to attack, so they're like, we should just leave.
Yeah, that would make sense.
So they sail on and capture two Spanish ships and add them to their fleet. But on June 26th, the Tiger strikes a shoal, which is like it's where the sand kind of comes up out of the water, sort of.
Yeah.
And it ruins most of the food and supplies and almost completely destroys the ship. So they're running low on supplies. We strike a shoal. We destroy our ship, basically, and then
it's not going well.
No, it's already not going well.
Yeah.
And they haven't even gotten there yet.
They're only at the first destination.
Yeah.
All right.
They're like moving on to the second
Got
destination. He's biting me. The cat is biting me. Anyway, the Tiger, they like repair the ship as best they can, and the Tiger and the rest of the ships kind of like find each other, and then they determine that the Outer Banks is full of those shallow inlets, which makes it impossible for the large ships to sail, so they have to find a better settlement area.
Got it. So they're saying that the islands are basically protected by these shoals.
They can't get to where they originally intended on colonizing, so they have to find a new area, which ends up being Roanoke.
Okay.
That wasn't like their intended spot. A faster ship set sail back to England to bring word of their safe arrival. Which if this was me, I would want to be on that ship. So the colony establishment. Since they lost so many provisions, only 100 men would be able to stay with Lane at the colony, and these men left behind would have to rely on the natives for support. So it's like pretty risky.
Yeah, to say the least. They just
don't have enough to support themselves.
Yeah.
Many of the colonists who joined did so expecting to find gold and silver, but no sources were located. So now they're just like, we left our homeland because we thought we were going to be able to get rich. That didn't happen. We have no supplies. Like, morale's pretty low at this point.
This is
it
going
just
terrible.
Sucks.
Yeah.
Which, if this was me, oh my God, back in 1585,
there's no like, I want to go home.
But like, this is to even leave your home to travel to an unknown land, like life must have been pretty desperate to do that. Yeah. That's crazy to me.
Yeah. No, that's crazy to me too.
Okay, so by springtime, relationships with the natives were really strained due to over-reliance on food sources. But they were able to make it through winter on limited provisions, so that's good because winters in
not cool.
The East Coast are
rough,
very harsh. Ralph Lane also, so relationships with the natives are already strained due to them just like help us because we're helpless. And you guys live here and have colonized the land and live off the land and know how to do it. And we are floundering. So help us. Ralph Lane, he kills Winnegaa, which is the king of a local tribe, straining relationships even further. So good job, guy. What are you doing?
He doesn't know what he's doing.
These people are helping you, and you're like, let me just kill the king of their tribe because that'll show him.
Yeah. Did he think like, oh, that'll mean I'm their king? Is that what his stupid thought was?
I didn't really look that much into that, his like reasons why, but I think it probably had something to do with like trying to show authority over them or make them scared.
So that shit works in Europe. It doesn't work with like native tribes and things. Like if you kill their king, like you have just ruined things. Yeah. So it's a whole different
they pretty
thing.
much ruined their chances after that.
Good luck.
In June, they made contact with Sir Francis Drake, who stopped by to drop off slaves, refugees, and hardware, but then agreed to leave behind 4 months of supplies and a ship. So Francis Drake, he's the guy who's just like sailing around the world, like looking at stuff and like collecting things. So he plans to go to Roanoke to like drop off slaves and refugees and like supplies to them. But then when he gets there, they're like so desperate that he agrees to give them 4 months worth of supplies and a ship, which that ship ends up being swept out to sea by a hurricane. So it's just not going
thing
well.
After thing.
After that, Lane persuaded the men to leave the colony, and Drake agreed to take them back to England. But if you stayed behind, Manteo is a Croatoan chief and his associate, and they go to England back with them. So they pick up these natives who like they just want to go to England with them.
Weird.
Yeah. I don't know. We're getting into a little bit of a fight. So there also is no records showing the slaves or refugees made it back to England, and it's possible they were left on Roanoke. So the refugees and slaves that Francis Drake dropped off, I'm pretty sure they just left them there.
Okay.
And then they decided to go back to England because it wasn't working out.
Yeah.
And they're just like,
so some people did get a ride home.
Pretty much everybody from the original 100 that stayed went home, except for a few who I guess just tried to stay, along with the slaves and refugees, because he just dumped them there and were like, fend for yourself.
Yeah.
Guy just picked you up from whatever homeland you came from and dropped you off there somewhere else, and then you're not my problem anymore. When they got back to England, they introduced corn, tobacco, and potatoes. Yay. Okay, so that was the first attempt at colonizing Roanoke, which went very poorly. And then they decided to try again.
Yeah, I would not call that a success.
No, it wasn't.
They got there.
Yeah, they got there. Cool.
No, they didn't even get to where they were supposed to go. They just got somewhere.
They got to North America.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're on to the second attempt, which is the Lost Colony. In 1587, a second colony led by John White, who was part of the first mission, and then he went back with them, and then he decided to try again. So this guy knows how bad the first time went and decides that he's going to try again anyway. They depart for North America with the intention of settling in Chesapeake Bay, which is north of Roanoke, because obviously the Roanoke spot didn't work out. So they're like, let's just
try somewhere else.
Approximately 115 people, including White's pregnant daughter and her husband, go. The colonists were mostly middle-class Londoners, including women and children, and no organized military force. So the first group was all men, and they were all part of the military. So they're be able to build houses, maybe have some experience with foraging in the wilderness. I don't know. Hunting. And now you just have all these common people that are gonna try and give it a go and build a colony from the ground up. So that's...
Could you imagine just packing up your entire life and going
That's
somewhere.
what I was saying earlier. It's like, I'm pregnant. Let me just travel to
But going somewhere
country.
where there's no home for you. There's nothing there. You have to build
you don't
your
even
home.
have tents.
You have to build your home from scratch.
There's no food.
There's no food.
There's
It's
a population.
unknown territory.
There's a population of Native Americans that you have no idea. You've only heard
That
like,
they kill everything.
Yeah, that they're violent.
Yeah. But let's give it a shot.
Yeah. No.
So that tells you that says how bad things were in Europe, because if they were
that's what I'm saying is it must have been so bad they're dancing themselves to death.
Yeah. If they were chilling, they would have just stayed, but it was that bad.
It was bad.
That they're like, let's get out of here.
I like to say that I'm an adventurous person who likes to go outside of my comfort zone, but not that. Okay, approximately 115 people, including White's pregnant daughter and her husband were, again, mostly middle-class Londoners, including women and children. No organized military force. Manteo, that Croatoan chief, also he comes back with them.
Okay.
So he gets a ride home. There's 3 ships in this expedition: a flagship named the Lion, a flyboat, and a pinnace, which depart on May 8th, 1587. On July 22nd, the flagship and the pinnace land on Croatoan Island, which will, if you know the story of Roanoke, then you know the word Croatoan is relevant.
Mm-hmm.
The plan is to take men with the pinnace over to Roanoke, where the slaves and refugees had been, and then continue to Chesapeake Bay. So they 1 year or 2 years before had left the slaves and the refugees, along with some of the men from the first expedition.
That's actually pretty quick, though. A quick turnaround.
Yeah, so the first one, they were there probably about a year and then went home, and then a year later they end up returning back.
Got it.
So this is 2 years.
Okay.
I guess it takes about a month, May, June, July, 2 months, a little over 2 months to get to from England to North America by boat.
That's actually pretty quick, too.
Yeah, it seems kind of quick.
Yeah, a little bit. I thought it was 3 months or something.
Well, when things go badly.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. When everybody dies of scurvy.
Yeah. When things go badly and everybody dies.
So they go to Roanoke, and they saw a dismantled fort with empty houses and overgrown melons. There were bones. Melons. There were bones which are believed to be those of Greenville's men who were killed by Native Americans. So they went...
Well, that's an assumption.
Well, they went to find the refugees and slaves, and no one's there, and there's just bones. So they were killed or they died just naturally.
Well, yeah.
Or they're just a bag of bones. On July 25th, the flyboat arrives and they disembark. So the flyboat is the third boat that comes to Croatoan. Shortly after, a colonist is killed by a native while searching for crabs. So good start, I guess. They just get there and someone from their crew is immediately killed.
Yeah, it's
not a good sign.
Not a good sign, yeah.
Colonists start having problems with the natives and want to relocate. They pleaded with White to return to England and bring back more supplies and people. So they're telling White, the guy who brought them over, they're like, please, can you please go?
Why do they constantly need supplies? They're not prepared.
No, they were not. This
is just silly. This is...
also, so they were supposed to go to Chesapeake Bay, right? But they didn't. They actually ended up just going to Roanoke and settling there again.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention that. Yeah, so then they're having problems with the natives. They want to relocate. They need supplies. So they beg him to go back because they're so desperate. So he's leaving behind his pregnant daughter, who actually gives birth, so now his new granddaughter, who's named Virginia, as the first English-born baby on North American soil. She was born on August 18th. Yeah.
And she lived till 1 month old.
She lived till, I think, well, we don't know actually, because he leaves.
Yeah.
So he leaves, and when he left, England was about to go to war with Spain. So when he gets back, his return is delayed 3 years.
Ooh.
It takes him 3 years to get back because of the war.
Yeah, that's
It's just bad timing.
That's a lot longer than initially anticipated.
Yeah, it's bad timing. He does return though. So in August of 1590, White returns to Roanoke to find that it's completely abandoned, with the only clue being Croatoan carved into a fence post and crow carved into a tree. He attempts 2 times to sail to Croatoan Island, but is turned back due to bad weather, and so he ends up returning to England and dies in 1953. So
1953?
Yeah, he dies like... Oh, sorry.
I was like, oh my...
Sorry, 1593.
I was like, holy shit, he lived till he was 450.
1593. So he goes to Roanoke. He sees the Croatoan carved in a thing, which he takes as the sign, like they're telling him that that's where they went, which that's the logical explanation. But he never ends up making it to Croatoan to actually find out if they were there.
Sure.
And he just goes home and he dies. So he never actually knows what happened to them. But it's the whole 112, like nobody even stayed behind. Like there's no new bones. There's no evidence of anybody who died at Roanoke. So they went somewhere. There's a few theories. So the first one is they were attacked by Native Americans, which they were having strained relations with already. I'm sure that they remember these white colonists who killed one of their kings.
Yeah, that might be why the constant retaliation.
Why would you go back? What are you doing? The second theory is actually that they assimilated with the Native Americans and just like...
So this is not a Dances with Wolves story. This is not, they did not assimilate.
Well, hold on.
Okay.
Remember Ambassador Manteo from the Croatoan tribe? He spent time in England, then sailed back with John White. John White decides to name him chief of Croatoan and Roanoke. Like that, John White just decides that
it's not his decision.
Exactly. Which Manteo is unable to make peace with the Roanoke tribe because he's not part of it and he's not their chief.
No shit. It's not John White's decision.
And so that's why they think maybe Manteo took the settlers to Croatoan, which is where he was from.
Okay.
There's been European artifacts found on Croatoan, but also I think
they could have just been stolen.
They were definitely there before.
Yeah.
Too. And also many of them date before the 17th century, meaning they could have ended up there past 1587.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Okay.
There's no like definitive answer. The third theory is that they moved inland. There was a map made by John White that shows a star through a patch. So there's like he makes this map, which I guess like cartographers have said for the time. Is he a
cartographer though?
He's an artist. I didn't mention that, but he's an artist. But
map making is a little different.
Map making is crazy.
Yeah,
how those
nuts.
people did that, I have
no idea.
Clue. People have said that the map that he made for the time is like so accurate, like beyond his time kind of accurate.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a time traveler. I don't know.
Maybe he was a cartographer by hobby.
On the map, there's a patch, because since maps were like so difficult to make, you wouldn't just like throw away and start over. You would patch any like mistakes. And then underneath that patch, there was a star, as if it was like, they say, whoever historian map makers said this, that it is like the symbol for a fort, as if like a fort would be like inland 50 miles from Roanoke. And then on top of that patch was like another like star drawn with invisible ink. So something like lemon juice, where if you did you ever do that, like draw with lemon juice on a piece of paper and like put it in the oven and it makes a mess?
Yeah, I've never done that, but I know it's a thing.
Yeah,
I've never done that.
Never did it. So they're saying that indicates a fort, and when they went to that location, there was European artifacts found in that area dating to that time. But then the question is, why is John White hiding the fort if that's where they were going to go? Like, what is he doing covering it up? Doesn't make any sense. So those are the theories, that either they moved inland, assimilated with the Native Americans, or attacked by Native Americans.
So what I think every time I've heard this story is I actually think they left.
I think they just left. Yeah. I don't really think that it's much of a mystery. Like, where did they go? I mean, there's also the theory that aliens were involved.
Oh, God, of course. There's always an alien theory.
If you want to choose that one.
The aliens.
Take your pick.
Aliens came down.
Yeah.
No,
I really think they just left, and
because that was a common thing to do if a certain area was too
it wasn't working for them,
hostile, or they couldn't grow anything, or whatever the case may be. That was a common thing. Just move on.
And then after that, like, so many people were coming over and colonizing that whatever they had probably just got like covered up or left behind. Or if we do find any artifacts from the original Roanoke, like, how are we to distinguish that's what that's from and not other settlers? So
no, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they just left,
or just died of famine.
But not in that spot. They walked away first.
Oh, okay.
They just weren't where they were going to be. I don't even know if they would have gone back to Croatoan.
No. Yeah, I think they just moved on for...
Maybe they tried to go to Chesapeake Bay.
Maybe they went to Canada.
Anyway.
Yeah.
All right, that's the story of Roanoke. Not really so much of a mystery, I don't think.
No, but it... Wasn't there like a tree marked?
That's what I said. The fence post with Croatoan, and then the tree had crow in it, which makes sense. Or someone was paying homage to Croatoan, and it really means nothing. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it means absolute. Maybe it was just some stupid kid. It could be as dumb as that. And we're basing whole historical like theories on like some kid going to Croatoan.
The first like
graffiti artist
defacing.
I like
that
way
post.
better. Yeah, that's funny. All right, so my story this week, first, the name caught my eye and had never heard of this.
Do I know it?
This story is The Mad Gasser of Mattoon.
Someone is farting?
No.
Oh.
All right, so
Mattoon?
Yeah.
What's that? Is that in Canada somewhere?
It's in Illinois.
Oh.
So close-ish.
Not really.
Not really. The Mad Gasser of Mattoon, also known as the Anesthetic Prowler, which I like that name better. Frizz.
Oh my God.
Frizz, the Phantom Anesthetist, or simply the Mad Gasser, was the name given to the person or people involved and responsible for a series of apparent gas attacks that occurred in Mattoon, Illinois during the mid-1940s.
I'm sorry, but calling someone a mad gasser really just takes my mind straight to one thing.
To farting. Macy, she was a mad gasser.
I'm so sorry.
More than 24 separate cases of gassings were reported to police over a span of 2 weeks, in addition to many more reported sightings of the suspected assailants. So,
is this like during the daytime?
If I'm thinking ahead, it's just many different times of the day.
But like in public, not like home invasions? Okay.
The gassers' supposed victims reported smelling strange odors in their homes, which were soon followed by symptoms such as paralysis of the legs, coughing, nausea, and vomiting.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, that's terrifying. And
I would think I'm like suffocating of like natural gas or something, or like stove gas.
Yeah, that's what I would initially think. No one, but there is a plus side. No one died or had serious medical consequences after. So it's like a temporary paralysis, I guess, which is sucky. We're good.
What time period are we in?
1940s.
Okay. So what kind of anesthesia were they using? Like what?
They don't know.
Oh.
Police remained skeptical of the accounts throughout the entire incident. No physical evidence was ever found, and many reported gassings had simple explanations, such as spilled nail polish or odors emanating from animals or local factories. So that doesn't quite explain the paralysis, spilled nail polish, which is what?
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Victims made quick recoveries from their symptoms and suffered no long-term effects. Nevertheless, local newspapers ran alarmist articles about the reported attacks and treated the accounts as fact. So the newspapers just ran wild. Mainly probably because it's such a wild thing to say. You know, it's basically like picking up a tabloid story and running with it. Mm-hmm. But something must happen. The attacks are widely considered to be a case of mass hysteria. However, others maintain that the mad gasser actually existed and that the perceived attacks have another explanation, such as industrial pollution, which I'm kind of thinking that's the case.
So it wasn't like a person? They think that maybe...
Well, what did it do? Most contemporary descriptions of the mad gasser are based on the testimony of Mr. and Mrs. Burt Kearney of 1408 Marshall Avenue, the victims of the first Mattoon case to be reported by the media. They described the gasser as being a tall, thin man dressed in dark clothing and wearing a tight-fitted cap. I don't know why I said that twice. Sounds cool on the mic. Another report.
It's like blowing up people's ears.
Yeah, probably. I'll make sure I fix it. Another report made some weeks later described the gasser as being a female dressed as a man. The gasser had also been described as carrying a flit gun, a hand-pumped insecticide sprayer, like the an agricultural tool for spraying pesticide, which he purportedly used to expel the gas. So that's how he got it sprayed around.
So he's just like attacking like random homes and gassing them.
Yeah.
Why?
But that's what they don't know anything. So
I don't understand what is the gratification this person is getting if this is a person.
Well, that goes for a lot of things.
That's true.
Like, who knows why people do a lot of things, like dance in 1536.
That was involuntary. They didn't want to do that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's funny that you brought up like a mass hysteria.
Yeah.
And it's weird because like as like odd as that type of thing sounds, and as it just doesn't sound like the right explanation, but then you kind of realize that if something like that is like in the news, and then maybe these people are kind of just like jumping on the wagon being like, oh, I was attacked too by the mad gasser.
Yeah, I think it's like, it's a weird,
people like love that weird publicity, like Munchausen's or whatever.
Yeah, like it's the whole like, it happened to me. It happened, like, I don't know if that's hysteria or it's just like I saw something.
It's kind of like, it's or like natural disasters where it's like, oh, it was the town next to me. It was horrible. Like everything, all the homes there were destroyed, and like we thought ours was going to be destroyed too, but it wasn't even close.
So then you weren't a part of it.
But you want to be a part of it. Like you want that. Feel bad for me too. Yeah. It's
like the sympathy, looking for sympathy or something. I don't know.
We all do it
for sure. That's why. But on such a scale is so weird. Who did they attack? Who did they, or he or she or whoever, thin figure with a gas gun? The first of the 1944 gasser incidents occurred at a house on Grant Avenue, Mattoon, on August 31st, 1944. Urban Rafe, cool name, was awakened during the early hours of the morning by a strange odor. He felt nauseated and weak and suffered from a fit of vomiting. suspecting that he was suffering from domestic gas poisoning, which is
what?
Yeah, so that that's
well, okay. If he's smelling, that's what I was saying earlier. If you're smelling a weird odor and you start to feel nauseous, like I would think like carbon monoxide. I know that carbon monoxide isn't smelling anything, but I would think like gas.
Rafe's wife tried to check the kitchen stove to see if there was a problem with the pilot light, but found that she was partially paralyzed and unable to leave her bed.
Oh my God.
Later that night, some contemporary accounts refer to the time as the morning or the following day, so like early morning. A similar incident was also reported by a young mother living close by. She was awakened by the sound of her daughter coughing, but found herself unable to leave her bed. The next day, September 1st, there was a third reported incident. Mrs. Kearney of Marshall Avenue reported smelling a strong, sweet odor around 11 p.m. At first, she dismissed the smell, believing it to be from flowers outside of the window, but the odor soon became stronger and she began to lose feeling in her legs. Mrs. Kearney panicked and called her, and her calls attracted her sister, Mrs. Reddy, cool name, who was in the house at the time. Mrs. Reddy also noticed the odor and determined that it was coming from the direction of the bedroom window, which was open at the time. The police were contacted, but no evidence of a prowler was ever found. So, this little area was getting hit by some sort of something.
Yeah, it seems like something's happening.
Yeah, that's like why I think it's not really
It's one of those,
something's going on.
If people are reporting these within like hours of each other and it hasn't been like in the news yet, then that's when you can kind of tell that, okay, they're not
and it's the same
getting together and lying.
And it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. It's the same exact story.
Like a weird odor and paralysis.
Yeah. Exactly. The same exact symptoms, everything. Kearney's description of, at around 12:30 a.m., Bert Kearney, Mrs. Kearney's husband, returned home to find an unidentified man hiding close to one of the house's windows. The man fled and Kearney was unable to catch him. Kearney's description of the prowler was of a tall man dressed in dark clothing, wearing a tight-fitted cap. This description was reported in the local media and became the common description of the gasser throughout the Mattoon incident. So that's where that description came. After the attack, Mrs. Kearney reported suffering from a burning sensation on her lips and throat, which were attributed to the effects of the gas. Initially, she was suspected that robbery was the primary motive for the attack. At the time of the incidents, the Kearneys had a large sum of money in the house, and it was surmised that the prowler could have seen Mrs. Kearney and her sister counting it earlier in that evening. So that's like, a little far stretch.
Yeah. But he didn't actually break in, though.
Yeah, he didn't do anything.
Into any of the houses?
But is that because... Into any of the houses, yes. But is that because Bert Kearney caught him?
But it doesn't seem like burglary is the motive.
Not at all. Because he did this to 3 houses at this point
and didn't try to go
in. Of them. Yeah. Local newspapers incorrectly reported this incident as being the first gas attack. The Kearneys, because it was actually the third. They were just the first to get it to the... They had the most info, basically, because he had a description.
Yeah. Because you can't really report on somebody saying, I woke up to the smell of gas and then I was paralyzed. And then they could just be like, well, did you check your stove?
Yeah. In the days following the Kearney attack, there were half a dozen similar attacks though none of the purported victims were able to provide a clear description of the prowler, and no clues were found at the scene of the attacks. The first specimen of physical evidence was found on the night of September 5th when Carl and Beulah Cordes of North 21st Street returned to the home around 10 p.m. After spending a few minutes in the house, they noticed a piece of white cloth slightly larger than a man's handkerchief sitting in their porch screen door. Beulah picked up the cloth and smelled it, and as soon as she inhaled, she became violently ill.
Why did she smell it?
Who knows?
What? Who knows? That's so gross.
Let me just lick this.
Look at this handkerchief that someone might have blown their nose into.
Wipe their butt. Yeah, so dumb. She described the effect as being similar to an electric shock.
That's extreme.
Her face quickly began to swell. She experienced a burning sensation in her mouth and throat and began to vomit. As with the other victims, she also reported feeling weak and experiencing partial paralysis of her legs. Beulah later hypothesized that the cloth had been left on the porch in order to knock out the family dog, which usually slept there so that the prowler could gain access to the house unnoticed. The same night, a second incident was reported, this time on North 13th Street at the home of Mrs. Leonard Burrell. She reported seeing a stranger break in through her bedroom window and then attempted to gas her. Public concern over the alleged gassings quickly rose. The FBI became involved, and the local police issued a statement calling on residents to avoid lingering in residential areas and warning that groups set up to patrol for the gasser should be disbanded for reasons of public safety. So
that last one sounded a little like she just wanted to be a part of it.
She's basically
she broke in and gassed me.
Yeah, it's like,
okay, any more information, ma'am?
It's like she read the newspaper and she's like, yeah, me too. Yeah, they tried to break in. So
when out of all the other ones he wasn't breaking in at all, but then in this case he breaks in just to gas her. Like he could have just used the window.
And then didn't take anything. Hysteria. Almost 2 weeks after the attacks began, the local commissioner of public health, Thomas V. Wright, announced that there had undoubtedly been a number of gassing incidents, but that many instances were likely due to hysteria, residents hearing of alarming events and then panicking when confronted by an out-of-place order or a shadow at the window. So he's saying, like, everybody's on edge because they heard something happen that first night that we kind of think something definitely happened. Mm-hmm. And everybody's like, me too, I smelt it and then I couldn't move. It's like, you can move. On September 12th, local chief of police C.E. Cole took Wright's hypothesis a step further, announcing that there had likely been no gas attacks at all, and that the reported incidents had probably been triggered by chemicals carried on the wind from nearby industrial factories, facilities, and exacerbated by public panic. So,
but it seems weird that it hits like random houses and not the whole area, or people like walking outside. Yeah,
that's exactly what I thought. If it's being carried on the wind but it's only hitting like this house, that house, this house, like that
in the inside of the house. And
yeah, it doesn't seem
plausible.
No, I don't think so.
Also, the handkerchief, if that was
that was fake. That had to have been fake.
Yeah.
She felt an electric shock. Come on.
Her face swelled up because she smelled it on a handkerchief. There's no way that had enough gas in it.
Wright and Cole's diagnosis was given further validity in 1945 when the Journal of Abnormal and Social Psychology published The Phantom Anesthesiast of Mattoon, a field study of mass hysteria by Donald M. Johnson, which documented the Mattoon incident as a case of mass hysteria. In 1959, his opinion was seconded by psychologist James P. Chaplin and went on to form the basis for several studies of the phenomena.
Interesting.
What was it? On September 12th, Chief of Police Cole told a press conference that odors and symptoms reported may have been the result of pollutants or toxic waste released by nearby industrial plants, and speculated that carbon tetrachloride or trichloroethylene. Oh my God.
Can I read it?
Yeah. Well,
carbon tetrachloride or trichloroethylene.
Trichloroethylene, both of which have a sweet odor, can induce symptoms similar to those reported by the gasser victims and may have been the substance released. So,
it sounds like somebody with access to like anesthesia was doing something, because
yeah, because it's weird though, because
if there was no like other side effects other than Like, if there's no damaging side effects, then I don't know if it was like a, you know, I don't know. But I guess.
Have you ever had been put out by anesthesia? Mm-hmm. Does it smell? I've never.
It doesn't smell like anything, but it does burn. Yeah, it does burn a little bit, but not like, it wouldn't be like a lasting effect.
It would paralyze you though, right? Because you can't.
Oh yeah, it paralyzes you, but you like fall right to sleep. But the amount that they like give you, you fall right to sleep.
Yeah.
But
you know why I sort of believe the it's in the air sort of thing is because the only person to report seeing a person was Bert Kearney, and that could have just been
made up,
either made up or just coincidence.
And
that
it
there
just
was
stops,
just somebody
like
there.
The gassings just stop.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It was something though, because something started it. And then whether it was mass hysteria, something started the hysteria. Just like in your dancing
I think it
story
turned
from
into
last
mass
week
hysteria with the people making up the stories. Like, whoa, he broke in and he gassed me. It was crazy.
And just taking any
like,
sort of anything out of place as it's the gasser.
Like, okay, Julie.
It's almost
nobody believes you. You lonely old woman with nothing.
Yeah, it just seems like people.
I'm sorry, that was mean.
But then again, if you think about it, what was something that was weird that wasn't brought up as a theory is that it was 1944.
This is like
World War
II time, yeah.
Maybe, you know, like,
what if they were like practicing?
That's what I'm saying.
These poor people, they're like, no one will know.
Or maybe
it
was like a, I don't know, a spy gassing.
Also, I was gonna bring up like that, since it was 1944, and you were saying that nobody died and there was no like side effects afterwards, but we don't know because they probably didn't even keep track of it to see if these people like developed cancers or symptoms like later on.
Yeah, I didn't read anything about any in 1999, you know, like
so developed a severe lung cancer or something
due to gasser,
possibly inhaling this gas. The mad gasser
of Mattoon County. It
sounds there you have it, folks.
Sounds like a very boring movie.
Let's make it a reality.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's all I got. That's it for this week.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.